Previously on Not Again.
Like, The Secret Life of Pets 1 was like, hey, look at what all these pets do. It's Toy Story, but with dogs. And then, like, The Secret Life of Pets 2 implies, like, they have more secrets. We forgot these secrets.
A lot of these animated movies, they're just like happy colors and dogs and kitties, and they're meant to just sort of entertain. But, like, they tried to write jokes. At some point, there was a room full of people writing jokes that they thought were going to be good on camera, and every single one of them wasn't.
Flat. I feel like Duke is being, like, completely sidelined. Like, why does this dog exist?
There's a farm, there's a rabbit fantasy, there's a tiger, there's a train, there's a Russian.
And now back to our show. Hi friends, welcome back to Not Again, the podcast that brings college-level analysis to preschool-level content. I'm one of your hosts, Rebecca.
I'm your other host, Alan.
And today we're finishing up with The Secret Life of Pets 2.
Secret Life of Pets 2.
The Secret Life of Pets 2, Part 2. This is not going to get confusing at all. I don't know why you're confused right now. Also, our mini host is here. That would be Ari. He's here with us all the time. And I wanted to shout out Time for Your Hobby podcast. That would be at TFYH podcast on Twitter. I was having a little bit of a back and forth with them on Twitter, and I don't even remember how it came up now. But I asked what other podcasters with kids do in order to find like recording time and all that, and apparently. She also has, I'm going to say she, because I don't know pronouns, but I'm going to say she until corrected. But she also has a young son, just I think a couple months younger than Ari. And somehow she brought up the term mini host, and I love that so much. So shout out to Time for Your Hobby podcast. Thank you very much. Go listen to Time for Your Hobby.
And here's our mini host, Ari.
And here's our mini host, Ari, who is going to make noises, and we can't stop him. And, of course, our puppy host, Radar, is here as well, panting heavily. So he's a big dog. So if you hear that, sorry about that. So I have been active on Twitter for the first time in my life because I'm doing all these podcast reviews, and I'm having such a great time with it. And I'll talk about our Patreon at the end of the episode, but it's been such a blast. So if you're listening to this and you got a podcast review from me, from Potato Lady Podcast Reviews, which is my brand, thank you so much. And tell your friends. I will happily review them now, although now I'm kind of trying to turn it into a career because I would love to do this full time, basically. Anyway, we're talking about The Secret Life of Pets 2.
Yeah.
Last time, well, you already heard about last time because I put some stuff in the last time on. So, and also, of course, you listened to the first part already.
Every one of our fans listens to absolutely every episode all the way through to the end.
Every one of our fans who is my mom. Yes, because, now I want to talk about Gidget. Now, Gidget has migrated onto our Facebook cover photo. She is a fluffy white dog, and she is I love Jenny Slate as a voice actress, but like she is such a confusing character choice. She has this crush on Max, who's Patton Oswalt dog, and like I just wanted to touch on, like, again, I said in the last episode she was introduced coming out of a dishwasher, which would kill a dog. Yeah, kill a dog, and she is in love with Max, which is I also don't like the kind of stereotype that she is. Like, I don't know what to call this stereotype. I haven't actually been on TV Tropes, and I want to be, but, like, she, you know what I'm talking about? Like, she's clingy and is hoping, like...
Yeah, that kind of, like, gross longing, that kind of, like, attached, where she has this vision of what their... She does, in fact, have a vision... Of what their relationship is. A fantasy about what the relationship would be, and it's all that sort of stuff.
I just, like... I don't know how to say it. It's so anti-feminist to have, like, this woman who's obsessed with a man who will never be with her and doesn't see her that way. It's almost like it's a version of the friend zone trope, which I don't like at all. And so I don't like that character. And then, so let's talk about this fantasy. So the fantasy is, like, my whale scene because I can't seem to stop seeing it. If you want to know about the whale scene, remember to go back and listen to our Finding Nemo episodes. And you should do that anyway, because I really like those ones. Not to toot my own horn. Our own horn, dear. Sorry, I'm tooting our own horn.
This is just getting worse, okay? You're not better.
I'm sorry, I just didn't want to cut you out of this. But she, like, fantasizes about, like they're wearing people clothes.
Yeah, they're like, and it's real kind of like 1950s-y, like...
Yes, putting the woman in that kind of, the like child raising. Okay, actually, so Max the dog has a squeaky toy he calls Busy Bee because it's a ball that looks like a bee. Mm-hmm. Stay with me on that logic train.
Oh gosh, it's harsh.
Yeah, and it's his favorite toy, and he's going to this farm to like relax, as we talked about last episode, and he decides that he needs somebody to watch this toy. And I think that the character motivation here is so unclear to me because he leaves the house all the time and doesn't go to find a quote babysitter for his favorite toy then.
Yeah. It's just to get her included, I suppose.
Exactly. It's just to get her included. Because he goes to the cat first, and the cat brushes him off, and then he goes to Gidget, who agrees to watch this ball, and of course shenanigans ensue where she loses the ball to an old woman who
hoards cats,
which is another stereotype that we don't need to really push. And that wouldn't have happened if he'd just been like, yeah, I'm leaving the ball safely and securely in this apartment I live in, and that I know, like, you know, it's just like, I know he's supposed to be paranoid and stuff like that. That's like part of the plot is that he's like anxious, but he has expressed no previous worries about this toy and it getting lost. And so they didn't set that up at all. And so he goes to Gidget and he's like, here's this toy. And she fantasizes about him and her in a nice 1950s-esque heteronormative
white picket fence, suburbs and, you know, all that sort of
stuff. With the ball as their child. And I guess, like, I hate to use this term, but it's like a term, you know what I mean? But baby crazy, like that's what I mean by that, like anti-feminist stereotype that she is. Yeah,
just like can't wait to get to that marriage family.
Exactly.
Thing.
And so again, that's why I don't like her character. But she fantasizes. The culmination of this fantasy is that she's making out with Max, and.
It snaps back to reality. Yeah. And she's just like licking the air.
No, like her tongue is circling in the air. Yeah. Like I got to make this as graphic as possible for our listeners. Where she was fantasizing about like open mouth tonguing this other dog, but they were wearing people clothes. I do not like. That is my rating. Do not like this entire arc, this entire character.
Right.
That fantasy. Do not like. Do you want to come to Mama?
Yeah.
Come here, BB.
She loses the Busy Bee to the crazy... actually, she doesn't seem crazy at all. She just, like, her character. She's just old, and she hoards cats.
Right. So, like, we're trying to avoid saying crazy cat lady.
And we've done it 17 times now already.
Like, it's just, like, it's a term that's been, like, introduced into society. And what I'm saying is I don't like it. I don't like baby crazy as a term, and I don't like crazy cat lady. And if people are like,
I don't like the tropes which they are using.
Right, that either. The tropes and cliches are not good. And I mean, like, it goes into, I can't remember if I already talked about this, but it goes into the way we treat the elderly in entertainment, like television, movies and stuff, where they're like, oh, they're always senile, they're always wearing hearing aids, dentures, like
she's got like the glasses on, so she can't see. Or
old
whatever.
People are people. Like, and yet it's at a certain age, like as soon as somebody hits like 65 in our society, they suddenly become this like childlike half-formed entity, and it's like ridiculous. It's like, respect your elders. In Japan, they call older people like grandma and grandpa, and they do it respectfully. Like if you walked up to an old woman in America and said, "Hey, grandma, can I help you out?" She'd smack you with her purse. Yeah. Or with her hand, because she's not carrying a purse, because not every woman has to carry a purse.
And sometimes young people have hearing aids.
Yes, that too. Like, hearing loss affects lots of people and is nothing to disparage, for sure. And so like, the dehumanization of the elderly occurs way too often in everything. The dehumanization of the elderly, the dehumanization of anybody who's even slightly overweight. We just talked about this in my class today, which is why I'm thinking about it. And it just happens. And so, and now we have these dogs who are humanized in the worst way. So, so the main thing I wanted to talk about today was the be a man narrative that Max goes through with Harrison Ford dog, whose character's name is Rooster. So, where to start with that? First of all, he's a dog.
Yes. So he's kind of God, I didn't even think about this before I started forming the sentences. He's the top dog on the farm. So he's in charge of like all of the other animals.
Harrison Ford dog.
Harrison Ford dog.
Yeah.
And so, like, he sleeps in an old kind of, like, bombed out, rusted out car.
Radar just entered the room, stepping on everything possible. It reminds me of that SpongeBob episode where he was trying to sneak through the room and his shoes kept making, like, quacking noises. And then it zooms out and he's walking on ducks. It's a very weird gag, but, like, Radar just
makes all the noise.
Radar makes a ton of noises.
And so, anyways, like, he's in charge of herding the sheep and cows.
We talked about this last episode. They shouldn't need herding.
They shouldn't need herding because they can just talk to each other because they all speak the same language.
Yep.
Let's see here. He's kind of has this place of reverence. He's like up on a hill in this like a rusted out car, and he sleeps out there. And like, so he's kind of like the biggest, toughest, gruffest.
And Max is ostensibly supposed to learn from him. And I think I want to start here. So Max goes to the farm and he has a cone on his head.
Yes.
And Rooster, the dog, immediately starts disparaging him for having this cone. Which, if you...
was given to him by a veterinarian, by the way.
If you... Yeah, exactly. So it's almost like if you kind of create the analogy of like, this is Max's support to stay healthy, given that he has some mental health issues, then we are saying that anyone who needs a support to keep them healthy, like any kind of medical support or device to keep them healthy, they should feel they are weak. Exactly, they should feel bad about that.
And Rooster just pulls the cone off his head and says, "You're cured."
Exactly, like he yanks it off of him. And honestly, I would have loved a narrative where Max learns. Yeah, you have stuff to say.
You also don't like it.
Yeah. You have lots of commentary where Max learns that he, is not abnormal just because he has anxiety, but he like gets coping mechanisms, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like what a modern thing. There's not a kid over the age of 5 these days who isn't suffering from some kind of anxiety.
Right.
Have that message of like, you know what, you can have anxiety and you can find a way to cope and seek help. Thank you, Radar.
Yeah.
And, seeking help is good. And instead, he like gets the cone ripped off his head, and then, he has to like go on this adventure to discover his courage and strength and
just like almost dies a bunch of times.
Yes. So you wanted to talk about this.
Yeah.
Like, the same message almost
is Finding Nemo, where like you have to learn to take those big risks and do those I guess be a man things that you do.
And we say be a man with like the utmost irony.
We don't like this line of plot.
So like, don't be so anxious.
Yeah, don't be so anxious. Take those risks. You got to lighten up and well, actually, Rooster never lightens up at all. But like, basically, he learns to just go for it or whatever. But some of the things that happen, I guess the kid was never really in that much danger in the movie, but like some of the things that happen, you should be worried and scared about, like a sheep almost falling off a cliff and the branch breaking and you like scrambling and like all that sort of stuff. And there was like a fox that almost attacked him and like a bunch like that stuff's legitimately harmful and scary.
Yeah. So like Finding Nemo,
I guess like being afraid of something that you are still learning how to do or something, being scared you're going to do it wrong is different than being like, I'm so brave, I'm going to walk out into traffic.
Right.
Like, no, you're supposed to be afraid of walking out into traffic.
It's perpetuating this idea that we need to talk about in this day and age of like living in fear versus having like good fear. Like not all fear is bad. For example, like if you fear I don't know, like enclosed spaces, right? There are people who have claustrophobia that might be considered an irrational fear, which is why people get therapy to help
them overcome it.
Yeah. So there are irrational fears, and then as you said, there are rational fears. For instance, if you saw a lion, it would be bad if your brain just went kitty and like go pet it.
Or I'm so manly that I don't need to be afraid of that 700-pound jungle cat.
Exactly.
Actually, lions are desert cats. Wrong one.
King of the Jungle is what got you there.
Yeah.
So there are rational kinds of fear, and the fears that Max was experiencing were largely rational. I mean, they live in New York City, where there's cars and. The kid was trying to eat used gum on a lamppost or whatever. And then on the farm, he got attacked by a turkey. He got attacked by a fox. A tiny lamb fell off of a cliff into an apple tree, and he had to save that. So there were rational fears in there. But another problem is that this dog is treating this kid like it is his kid. Because the human characters are kind of sidelined in this movie. When it is just not the dog's responsibility at all. Anyway, and so I have to bring something back that I haven't brought back in a while. I have to say that I have to issue kind of an expansive bad parenting alert. And here's why. She has the kid with her outside. This kid is like a toddler. And her name is Katie, by the way. I looked it up. Katie has her child, and the child is wandering over to some used gum stuck to a lamppost, and it is the dog who has to stop the child from eating the used gum. And I have to say, if you are walking the streets of New York City with your toddler, why aren't you holding his hand? Why didn't you notice at all that he was wandering over to eat some used gum? Why did the dog have to do that for you? And then in the beginning, there's this whole montage of the kid attacking the dogs, pulling their tails, and all that. We try to save Radar from our kids as much as possible. Where were you?
We're aware of it.
Yeah.
We're not just reading a magazine. Who cares if the dog gets attacked?
Yeah.
Or vice versa.
And so, look, germophobia is a bad thing, and I know that I'm a little bit too fearful of certain, germy things or whatever, but used gum on a lamppost, I think you should be stopping your kid from touching that. Even in non-COVID times, you should be stopping your kid from touching used gum on a lamppost. So I don't think she's, doing so great. And also, she brought 2 indoor apartment dogs to a farm where the rule on the farm was no dogs inside.
Yeah.
And was just that's cool with me.
Yeah, I was okay, they'll figure it out, I guess.
Yeah, and Max got attacked by a fox. So her dog nearly got
This is a bad dog parenting alert.
Yes, a bad dog parenting alert. We need a different sound for that.
Not a bad dog, bad pet parent.
Yes, bad pet. Okay, we also have a bad pet parenting alert. Okay. Yeah.
I don't want to imply he's a bad dog.
No, he's not a bad dog.
I got to be careful there.
Yeah. So all of that is messed up as well. But then we have this narrative on the farm, and by the way, he just leaves the farm towards the end to go have his train adventure. So it was that farm is just this set piece.
I guess because at the end of the train adventure, he's kind of brave.
Yes.
But that doesn't track as well. I want to talk about this a little bit. Being brave is not the same thing as being anxious or fearful, because if you're anxious or fearful, you're worried about something that may happen in the, in the far off. If you're in a crisis situation.
So you're saying anxiety is not the same as cowardice.
Well, exactly not.
So the cure to anxiety is not bravery.
No.
Which is a great lesson to learn.
Yeah.
From this, we should actually, hey, pretend that this is we'll just remember to do this in the What Have We Learned segment, because we are going to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't remember where I heard this quote once. I don't know if it's fake or not, or if it's part of a movie or whatever. Someone was in this crisis situation, and somebody asked him well, weren't you scared? And they were just yeah, the whole time I was scared. Of course it was scary. I was scared during the scared times. I managed to step up to do something that was helpful, but that doesn't mean that I wasn't scared.
Yeah. So he didn't need to learn to be brave, and also he's a tiny dog, so when he was I'm going to go be brave, he immediately encountered an entire pack of wolves and was oh yeah, bravery does not make me a larger dog who can take on a wolf pack. Yeah. So the opposite of anxiety is not bravery. You're not a coward if you experience anxiety. Take that from me. I'm not a doctor or a psychologist, but I'm going to tell you that anyway.
Pretty sure you're right on that one.
Yeah. And so he has to go learn from Harrison Ford dog to be brave. And this idea of cowards are not manly, and manly men slash tiny dogs
have anxiety.
don't have anxiety, and they do what they need to do and be tough and blah blah blah. And I'm just tired of that, especially in the context of a tiny dog who has some rational fears, but definitely like he did have some irrational anxieties.
He did. Like about a book that they were reading.
Yeah,
it's like the big bad wolf is too scary, and it's like
Red Riding Hood,
or
exactly.
whatever.
Yeah, and he was like, oh, he can't learn that like bad things happen in the world, right?
Yeah.
But like he was also anxious when the child's parents took him out of the apartment without him, and it's like, well, no, he shouldn't be anxious for the kid to be with his parents.
Yeah.
So he did have some irrational anxiety, but like for the most part, he did not need to learn to be a man. His problem was not that he was a coward, and the first thing that Harrison Ford dog did was take away a thing that made him feel safe. And so I hate the whole narrative, and it all culminates on a train adventure that comes kind of out of nowhere.
Well, we talked about how this just moves from kind of random set piece to random set piece. There's no like they were at a farm for a while where he learned that he almost died a couple times.
Yeah.
And a sheep that should have just known better.
Well, that's what really bothered me, though, is because, okay, so Max tries to be like Rooster by trying to herd a pig, but the pig is giving him no never mind. And again, half of this scene is supposed to be played for laughs, and none of it worked for me. But the pig, I think this is when the fence breaks. I think the pig freaks out, goes through a fence or knocks Max into a fence or whatever, and all the sheep get out. Number one, the sheep shouldn't have left.
Yeah, they can also just say, hey, could you please not? Like,
yeah, because they speak whatever language all these animals seem to communicate in. And then a lamb goes missing, and I'm like, well, at least it's a lamb, right? Like, I understand why it doesn't really understand why it shouldn't go running off. And they go through the big manliness journey to rescue it, and the lamb ends up in a tree growing off the side of a cliff that has apples in it, and Harrison Ford dog looks over the cliff, sees the lamb, and goes, hey, Cotton, what are you doing?
Sheeps are made of wool.
Yeah, and that's the irony is, like, he makes wool, and he is named Cotton, I guess. Like, oh, hilarious. Anyway, so he yells down, like, Cotton, what are you doing? And Cotton looks up at him and goes, I'm eating apples. There's apples in this tree. And I'm like, wait, the lamb talks too? You should have just yelled, hey, get back here. Like... What? Why did this idiot like wander off into the forest? He seems quite cogent. So I'm so bothered. Like you can hear
just
it.
Loves those dangerous apples.
Danger makes the apples taste better.
That's true. There's a proverb about that, I think.
And then of course, and this is such a nitpick, but like Max goes to rescue him from the tree, and his ankle is caught in like a fork in the branch, and Max just yanks harder to pull him out, and I'm like, that sheep is losing, that like the ankle is gonna break, like straight up, no. I need to just like take a breath here because I've been yelling. So this is normally what happens is I'll yell this at the TV. And so that's why we started this podcast. And I must say that the amount of time I've yelled at the TV has reduced significantly. Are there any parts of this that Warren really doesn't like? Like he doesn't like the segment that we talked about last episode with the comic book styles.
I think that's pretty jarring.
I think this one he's actually pretty good with. So for those who are just tuning in, why are you tuning into a part 2? I'm not trying to be judgy, but like a little bit. But Warren, our older son, is on the spectrum. And so there are certain things that like when he's watching a TV show or whatever, it's happened a lot lately with Peppa Pig. So I can't wait to dive into Peppa Pig. I will just tear that show apart. We should talk about one we like at some point. You want to talk about Puff and Rock?
We can talk about Puff and Rock.
We have to talk about...
We'll have a nice palate cleanser after
it's like
this
a palate
or something.
cleanser. Well, we had to do the thing that I was going to say we're going to do about like talking about autistic characters.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But like after that, maybe we'll have a palate cleanser of just going over the shows that we like Shaun the Sheep and Puff and Rock.
Yeah.
So that's that. But yeah, so... I don't know what else to say about this movie. I just wanted to talk about the Be a Man narrative and the story not making much sense. And, I feel a tooth. Hey, Ari's getting a tooth, I think. You guys can live this magical moment with us. Oh, he's chewing on my finger, by the way. That's how I know. You might hear him gurgling and grunting. So I think that the last thing that we have to do is, we kind of already did this, but I'm going to like combine it, like what have we learned and do we recommend this movie?
Yeah.
I think people can figure it out. But yeah, let's move into our culminating segment. What have we learned? I think that we can start with saying, like, what we are learning from this movie is anxiety is bad. You're not supposed to have it.
You're not supposed to have it at all. You're not supposed to be anxious ever. Not before a big test, not before a job interview, not before the big game.
Right.
These are all just...
And if you have a literal or figurative crutch, you should just toss it aside.
Right.
You shouldn't need that. And that's a bad thing to learn for sure. I really, the lesson of this movie is supposed to be what?
There's all anxiety is wrong.
Yeah, no, seriously, they want us to learn that you have to be brave and I mean, Harrison Ford says fake it till you make it. If you're scared, just pretend you aren't.
Well, that explains his character a lot, because he's just he at some point he has an emotion. Yeah. And then he's it's over. He just suppresses everything.
Again, supposed to be funny, is not.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the lesson is supposed to be be brave or whatever, but it just isn't. The lesson is if you have anxiety, you are bad, you are wrong.
If you have an anxiety disorder, you might need help, but that implies that there's an anxiety order, a normal time for anxiety.
Yeah, and I mean, full disclosure, I have anxiety. I seek help for it, and I don't like being kind of feeling like this movie is calling me out for being some kind of wrong when I know that I finally have begun to accept that I'm not a wrong, broken person, and that takes a lot of mental journeying to get to, and then to have this movie be you don't need the cone. That's my Harrison Ford. It sounds a lot like Paul Newman.
Yeah.
I think my Paul Newman is my Harrison Ford with a Southern accent, but not that is Paul Newman Southern? Was he Southern? Does he cease to be Southern now that he's dead? These are the real questions.
Well, he's just a little bit further Southern.
Oh God, he did not go to. Paul Newman is making movies in heaven right now.
Okay.
I monster.
I didn't mean...
Oh, you meant that's worse, honey. That's worse if you're saying he was in a grave. Oh, God, I'm
No, that's what I meant. The grave.
I know, that's
not
worse.
Not hell.
I know, but
okay, we got to cut this out.
That's so macabre. No, okay, at this point, by the way, you now have a catchphrase, which is we have to cut this out, because I never cut out what you declare we need to cut out. So that's your catchphrase. Roll with it.
All right.
It's your thing now.
We got to cut this out.
We're not cutting it out. But yeah, so that's that. And do we recommend this movie? No. Especially if you don't want to be explaining to your 6-year-old why the cat is acting all funny, and you don't want to have to deal with the drug talk with a little kid. I mean, is it harmful actively? I don't know what kids are picking up on.
Yeah.
They're certainly subconsciously picking up on old ladies are meant to be laughed at.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't know. I think that it could do some harm subconsciously.
I think, there could be enough kind of in this that's just not quite right that they could learn something they're really not supposed to.
Or ask questions that you don't want to answer.
Yeah.
Plus the poop joke stuff is... I don't want to get into it again because I don't want to have to have people skip forward, but it's bad. Yeah. So I don't like it. I don't know. I think 2 thumbs way down for this one. I don't even like I said last time. Oh, what's the matter? You don't like the movie either? Like I said last time, the animals aren't even cute.
Yeah.
So you can't even just be oh, cute animals.
Yeah, happy colors, cute animals. Who cares about the dialogue? Whatever. It's not that good.
All right, somebody's fussy, so I'm gonna send you away, and I'll do our sign off.
Okay. Bye for now. Yeah, that was Alan, and our mini host Ari is going to get a bottle. This is interesting. I wonder if future me will find some transition music so that that cut won't be too weird. But let's pretend there was transition music in case there wasn't. And if there was transition music, let's pretend I didn't say let's pretend there's transition music. But hi, I'm just going to kind of wrap up here with the usual stuff. I hope you'll listen to it because I'm going to do it super quick, okay? So we are loving podcasting, but we have some goals. We know that we could do better. We know that we could do better technology-wise, with how we record, and maybe even getting a second microphone and soundproofing our basement. And that requires a little bit of cash. I'm not trying to beg or anything. It's just that we do have a Patreon that I just launched. It is mostly for my Potato Lady podcast reviews because I feel like the higher tiers are things that podcasters would want. But we also do a shout out thing. So if you want somebody to, so if you want me or Alan or both of us to shout out your Twitter handle or your Etsy shop or anything else, that can exist. And I want you to know that
I fully expect people to want to do the higher level tiers, like either on and off, where they switch back and forth between lower tiers and higher tiers, or literally just doing the higher tiers for like 1 or 2 months and then switching to a lower tier. I don't expect you to actually want to stay on the higher tiers like indefinitely. And so like, please do consider signing up for our Patreon. I know everyone has a Patreon these days, but hey, it's great for supporting creators. The other thing is, if you want to just leave us a tip without like any commitment to like regular payments, we have a Ko-fi, which is pronounced like no fee, but it's spelled Ko-fi. So here are the websites. For subscribing to us, patreon.com/potato lady. And for giving us a quick tip, a cup of coffee, right? It is ko-fi.com/NotAgain. No exclamation point on that one. Please subscribe, share the show around on Twitter. You can find us on Twitter at NotAgainPod. You can find me on Twitter for a podcast review at Bex Goose. All of this stuff is in the description. And we have a Facebook page that we post updates to by searching Not Again with Alan and Rebecca. You can find that. And thank you so much for listening, friends. We really appreciate you helping us to maintain our marbles for one more week. Next time, we will be talking about how autism spectrum disorder is treated in various entertainment media. Thank you for listening. Bye, friends.